Focus on Global South co-founder, former Congressman Walden Bello. Sir, magandang hapon and welcome to Storycon.
Hi,
Hi.
good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Glad to join you.
Thank you for joining us, sir. Si
afternoon,
Professor
Prof.
Bello has authored several books on the issue of globalization, among others. Sir,
Elementary pa lang ako, meron na siyang development debacle eh. Mga kuwan ko noon, 4 years old.
anyway, sir, a lot of things have been happening since the weekend, and we thought we were hoping that was the worst of it already, pero mukhang nag-spiral pa, nag-spiral out of control this trade war, especially with China. Can you give us your lowdown? How do you think this is going to end up, especially for our side of the equation?
Well, I think we're seen by the Trump administration as being part of East Asia that has all these countries that have a very great trade surplus with the United States. So parang we're seen in the same context as China. But of course, China is seen as the big,
As the big bad
problem.
wolf.
Yeah. And they just raised the tariffs to China by around 104%.
Yes, sir.
And sa atin, 17%, we're sort of lucky. But then our neighbors, like Vietnam, for instance, is 46%. So mukhang kwan talaga, mukhang our region is being targeted. And I don't think we can underestimate itong plans ni Trump. No? My view is that fairly radical itong measures to be able to what they think is necessary to reinvigorate the American economy. No? Yung head ng team nila is Peter Navarro, who is basically very, very anti-East Asia, anti-China. And if I can just sum it up, he and Trump think that the United States consumers will have to swallow some bitter medicine so that they can get the American economy into a healthy state again. And they're willing to risk a global recession to be able to bring that about. Mukha naman yatang may mga consensus na yung mga economists na tuloy-tuloy ang pagbagsak ng stock markets and that this is going to lead to some global recession. But the way to look at this is Trump and Navarro and people around them think it's a necessary measure to be able to get the U.S. economy back on track. Kasi from their point of view, nawalaan ng mga 3 million jobs ang US which moved to East Asia and to China because the transnational corporations wanted to go after cheap labor.
Cut costs.
Now they want to reshore to the United States and they're bring it back to the United States. So yan ang strategic objective nito and they're willing to take risks. No? So we should not underestimate what's going to happen.
Prof, may mga nagsasabi, this is the start of the crisis of neoliberal globalization. No? Sabi nga nung isang Nobel Peace Prize awardee for economics, si Krugman, this is a malignant attempt to overturn the present global system. Tingin mo ba, Prof, ay talagang doon na ang papunta itong developments na ito na sinimulan o tinrigger ni Trump dito sa reciprocal tariff war niya?
Alam mo, matagal na talagang si Trump has been convinced that globalization is bad. No? Kasi tingin nila, globalization in terms of American corporations rushing out for cheap labor and bringing back commodities to the United States produced cheaply, for them, globalization was bad for the United States. And Trump has been very clear on that from the very start. No? So my sense is Krugman is right that this is the end to basically an 80-year period of an open trading economy for the United States, no? At si Trump kasi ang focus talaga nila is to um, um, create a fortress America na economically healthy by focusing resources, by bringing back capital, by bringing back industrial facilities to the United States in a very defensive way, taasan ng tariffs, prevent immigrants from coming in. So we are now in a state whereby may malaking defensive kind of mentality that is governing the
Yeah.
U.S. point. So that's, as I said, we should expect that there will be an almost complete overturn of the last decades of free trade policy by the United States.
Prof, ever since I've read your books when I was 4 years old, you have been a
Ulit
critic.
yung 4 years old eh.
You have been a critic of neoliberal globalization.
40 years old.
Diba? At ngayon na nangyayari, nag-unravel yung kinikriticize nyo, parang on the horizon, walang theoretical at saka practical alternative na nag-unfold. Sinasabi ko, hindi lang theoretical, practical.
It's not
yung
clear
pwedeng
paano.
ipalit dito sa unraveling na ito. Anong tingin nyo dyan? Dahil kayo yung one of the foremost champions ng critique dito sa ganitong klase ng globalization.
Well, ang sinabi nga namin is that para sa third world countries for the global south, no? It was globalization disadvantaged us in the sense that it really advantaged yung mga transnational corporations, no? That basically, controlled more than 60% of global trade and created all this commodity chains throughout the world. No? So that even if countries were industrializing, poverty was not being reduced, inequality was increasing, and basically ito yung disadvantages of globalization that became very well known especially since 2008, no? Napakataas ang mga inequalities that were created. So and what happened was that from our point of view, for the global south, for third world countries, we became overly dependent on the markets of the United States and of Europe, no? So parang na-integrate tayo dito sa mga first world markets that were very hard to pull away from, no? And our own developments were sacrificed to this, no? So ang tingin ko ngayon is that with this effort by Trump to create itong Fortress America, may advantages and disadvantages for us at the same time, no? The disadvantages, of course, it's very sudden. We did not expect that it would be this fast, that this reversal will take place. On the other hand, it opens up naman our opportunities to be able to trade with one another, maybe with other countries within the region, and have a more healthy economic relationship with each other. No, hindi na tayo overly dependent on trade with the United States and other global North countries.
So you agree with Trump na bitter pill nga to, bitter medicine?
Yes, in fact, I've been studying yung mga economists niya, especially si Peter Navarro, who's the
Advisor.
brains behind this, no? And they actually wanted to push this during the first Trump administration, pero nahirapan sila kasi there were still many globalists doon sa previous administration that blocked these efforts, no? So ang nangyari ngayon is that parang ang tingin nila Trump at nila Navarro is that we're is that they're catching up. They lost time with the obstructions during the first Trump administration, and that's why they think that they really have to push very fast and very hard at this point in time. Ganyan talaga yung tama ka, Ami. And Trump has always repeated this, that that there would be a lot of readjustment and suffering for American consumers before the American economy, from their point of view, can get back on track. I think the important thing to realize here, hindi pragmatists tulad sila Trump at Navarro. These people who are radicals.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, hindi kaliwa yan, pero radicals sila sa kanan.
Extremists.
So, ideological
Yeah.
nila.
But sir-
ideological talaga mga yan. So,
Radical populist.
But sir, the irony of what Trump is saying is that actually in the last 30 or 40 years, the United States surged ahead of its competitors in Europe, Japan, Britain, France, whether that's in terms of GDP per capita, wages. Pero I want to bring the discussion closer to here. Hindi pa klaro at this point how the government will respond to this. So far, we're hearing suggestions of potentially cutting tariffs by the Philippines to the U.S. For U.S. products to zero then, hoping that they will respond to that. What do you think of that, and what are some of the things that the government should be looking to at this point in time?
well, yung cutting down to zero, nag-respond na yung nag-respond na si Navarro, yung trade brains ni Kwan, to Vietnam, no? Sinabi niya na hindi sufficient yan. That if, cutting it down to zero is not enough to satisfy the United States kasi raw, marami mga ibang currency manipulation and all sorts of other hidden subsidies for the trading partners of the United States. And it's not just a question of yung cutting tariffs, but they have to change their policies around the currency, around many different things, and subsidies for their different industries. No, so my sense is this has created a lot of confusion across the board. In fact, across the whole world. No, and it seems like everybody nangangapa talaga ngayong mga tao kasi you would think that once Vietnam said, okay, zero tariffs, that would pacify them. But the latest is that no, it's not pacifying the Trump people. Basically, what they're, with respect, for instance, to Vietnam, ang gusto nilang gawin is that tanggalin niyo yung mga Chinese investments that are moving to Vietnam in order to export to the United States. No, that's basically what they're asking for. No, and with respect to us, marami rin tayong mga Japanese and other industries that move over here, also for export to the United States. No, not as much as Vietnam, but their idea is that their sense is that the Chinese, in order to evade yung mga tariff barriers ng US to China, move many of their industrial facilities to Southeast Asia. And so what they're saying is that, that's no longer possible. Kasi nag-evade lang, they're just moving it around. So you guys have to stop accepting Chinese investment that's manufacturing things for export to the United States. So it's very hard line that in terms of what they want to do. Plus, they want they're accusing us and the other Asian countries of manipulating our currencies. Na we're really making it very cheap relative to the dollar. And they're not citing any evidence for that. But itong currency manipulation is something that they're very, very sensitive to. No? So again, the point is that there's a lot of questions about the data they're using. with respect to, the trade surpluses and currency manipulation. But the important thing is that whether their data is correct or not, or insufficient, they're determined to upend things. So this is, I
Prof,
think we've all been surprised. It's just been less than 3 months, no?
Yeah.
Since Trump came to power, and both internationally, trade, and domestically sa US, they've moved fairly quickly and destabilized things fairly quickly. I just came from the United States. I was there for 3 weeks, and I tell you, people there are just don't know. I mean, bewildered at what is happening, no? And for instance, may mga permanent residents na ayaw na umalis sa US to visit their relatives because they're afraid that they might
Makabalik.
not be allowed to go back in. No? There's a great deal of uncertainty trade-wise and with respect to domestic policies. And I would just like to say again, we should not judge Trump as a pragmatist kasi very ideological yan. and I think this is what we should be expecting in the next few months is a lot of uncertainty.
Pero Prof, in spite of all these uncertainties, aren't we treading into very dangerous waters? Dahil even before itong disruption na ginawa ni Trump sa kanyang tariff war, ay meron na tayong global crisis of overproduction. Diba? Kaya nga nagkaroon ng ganitong klaseng condition dahil yung competition ng mga capitalist centers ay tumitindi. Especially in the US na nagiging deficit country. Diba? In the past few decades, deficit country na yung US eh. Yun yung objective condition dito sa ginagawa ni Trump. So, yung ginagawa ni Trump didn't happen in a vacuum eh. Ang problema ay because of this, hindi naman pwedeng tumigil ang production ng China, ng Europe, ng US, ng Latin America. Kaya sinasabi kong delikado. Usually, yung ganitong disruptions in the past leads to war eh. Diba? Pupunta ito sa military confrontation. May ganun danger ba ngayon dito?
Sa tingin ko, there's that danger. And I think if things get out of hand, especially with China, no? Kasi, you know what, Trump's biggest target is really China. But a target not as an enemy to be dealt with by war, but through trade war, no? So, but then trade wars like what they're launching now can have unexpected consequences, no? Alam naman natin that in the 20th century, what happened was that a trade war in the 1930s to the Great Depression, which then led to war.
World War II, yes.
So basically, the economic consequences of a trade war can run out of control and can in fact lead to conflict. So that's why things are very, very volatile at this point in time.
Well, we're hoping that doesn't come to fruition, but we'll leave that discussion there. Thank you so much for joining Storycon. Walden Bello, co-founder of Focus on the Global South.